All right, ready? I don't care about your feelings.
That was so odd. You'd be left of Lenin.
I can't believe you said that. Oh, jeez.
You have no power here.
What? Just two brothers.
It's just two brothers.
All right, we're back at it again with another episode of Just Two Brothers. We got some great topics to discuss today. We're going to go over the border crisis. Don't let the Democrats lie to you. It is a crisis. And we're also going to talk about the Facebook whistleblower. And I put whistleblower in quotations because we don't know if she's a real whistleblower or not. Frances Haugen is her name, and lying about stuff is her game. We'll also have the Daily Dumpster Fire coming up at the end. It was a really close competition to actually win it this time, so you'll get to see who that is. So where are we with this border crisis that we have on the Mexico United States border? And what do we got?
Oh man, you know, when we talk about the border, the left wants to try and say that it's not a crisis, or they won't cover it at all in the mainstream media and whatnot. But those of you who live down at the border or near it absolutely know what's going on there. And for the rest of the country, it's really important to know that our border is wide open. Whoever wants to try and say that it isn't has to lie to you for you to believe that, because it absolutely is. So I went and we pulled up some general numbers, some stats. You can find all of these coming directly from the DHS website. And to put things in context for you, so you can gauge exactly what the what's been going on there since the Plank office took hold.
Plank tells jokes. Knock him dead, buddy. Oh, that's a good one. You're killing me.
So if you recall, Trump had the Remain in Mexico policy, which was illegals that got caught in the United States or before being immigrated to the United States had to remain in Mexico. This was great because currently what happens is illegals that come here, they get housed for a little bit, and then they eventually get released into the interior where they're never heard of again. That's essentially what happens.
Wait, hold on. What about the honor system? We have an honor system where we're going to release you into the wild of the United States for you to do whatever you wish to do, and then on your honor, you're going to come back to our court that we haven't appointed yet or set a date for, but you're going to come back on your own and then go through our court system. I mean, that doesn't work?
Well, it works in, like, I believe it's less than 50% of cases that actually works, like where people will come, because they have two court dates. They have the initial one, and that I believe has a pretty high attendance rate. But then after that, the second one that they're supposed to show up for, most of them never do. They're gone. So Trump saw that and decided...
Thank you for putting that in context for me.
You're welcome. We're going to be talking specifically about the numbers here, though, so you can actually see a comparison side by side. Trump administration, Plank administration, and see exactly what they look like. Okay? And not only that, we should compare all of these to all the years that we have on record for these border crossings, because it is quite astounding. So let's just jump into it. According to the DHS, total number of illegal alien apprehensions in the Biden administration, or in the Trump administration. Here we go. 2016, there were about 400,000. 2017, about 300,000. 2018, about 400,000. And 2019, this would be Trump's worst year, about 850,000 total apprehensions. And just to put those numbers in context, the lowest year since 2000 was 2017 during Trump's administration of 300,000. And the highest since 2000 would be the year 2000, which was 1.64 million. So, just so if I'm doing my math here correctly, Trump's administration's worst year was about half of the highest year that we've ever had on record. Okay. Now,
No, it'd be about 25%.
right.
Yeah, it'd be about 25% of the worst year. 1.6 million versus 300,000 is.
Well, that was Trump's best year, right? Trump's best year was that. Trump's worst year was about.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Trump's worst year was about.
So he ranged somewhere between 25%
Yep.
and 50% of our max on year that we've ever had.
You know, the one thing that I kind of, that's a little interesting to me about the whole thing is, okay, so there was 1.64 million apprehensions. Okay, so let me play devil's advocate for you for just a little bit then. Wouldn't that be the best year?
I see where you're going with that, but I think they're saying total number of illegal crossings, right? Because that would lead to our apprehensions. That's why they would be apprehended.
Right. I mean, if the Border Patrol was roughly the same size throughout most of these years, I mean, granted, the smaller number would be a better year. I was just kind of throwing it. When you talk about lots of numbers all over the place, you kind of it gets a little bit hard to kind of follow. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. That we also know that the Border Patrol had been highly staffed throughout this time, throughout these years that we're talking about 2 decades. So no, the idea that if there was more apprehensions, you just did a better job is not what the actual case was. I know that was an argument that was made by the left a number of times to say that, there was a lot more apprehensions, so that means you just did a better job of catching these people. They kind of catch pretty consistently about the same amount of people, percentage-wise of what crosses, and that's where we're going with this.
If we're saying that the DHS or our Border Patrol catches an X percent, then that percentage would correlate to how bad the year was, right? The more people that come over, you're going to catch X percentage of them, and that's going to be your number of apprehensions. So trying to say that number of apprehensions meant that you did better would have to assume that the same amount of people were coming across at all times. We know that that isn't true because the number of people change who try to come, right? And I think that was obvious.
We also know for a fact that during a Democrat administration that more people cross because it's just known across the southern border. I mean, they spread that information. I have heard that it makes TV in Mexico, that they say, hey, they elected a Democrat. This is what you got to do if you're going to go across the border. This is what you do if they apprehend you. That was talked about in the late 90s, early 2000s a lot. I guess there was some commercial or something that aired in Mexico. It was like, hey, and it listed the benefits you could get on welfare, and people were just coming across the border. So we know that during a Democrat administration that the numbers are higher of people crossing because they know nothing will happen to them.
And that seems to bear out in the statistics as we start to look at the Plank administration. Right? Remember, we're still in the first year currently.
Gosh, that's insane. That's insane. Maybe this administration is a dumpster fire. Oh, did I give away a show?
We don't fully have the numbers on the Plank administration quite yet. That's just the truth. We know our month to month, and the numbers get reported within a fiscal year. So our numbers that we're going to be looking at will be ending in September. I think it's September.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
It's September. So the numbers for the entire for the Plank administration's first year is going to be coming out. And what we can do right now is look. Let's just take a little look-see and see exactly how things are going. So remember that the Plank administration's numbers are going to be slightly skewed at the beginning because of how these years, these numbers in these years overlap. So we're going to start, he's going to get the Trump administration's first couple months. So he's going to get from October till January are going to be Trump's months. And then after that is going to be the Plank administration, or the Plank administration's numbers, right?
Right. Yep.
You see how this is going? So here's what we have.
So he's really only going to have from January to September.
Exactly.
This year is the whole year.
In his border numbers, when you look at his first year's border numbers, those are the ones that they're going to try and pitch to you. Okay, so when you see the numbers coming from mainstream media and whatnot, know that they are going to do that. And if you were to take his numbers from January to January, that would be much more indicative of his true numbers as the administration, because we're not looking at Trump's numbers beforehand.
So for everybody in Portland, what does indicative mean? A good representation. You're welcome, Portland.
So, the official number for the fiscal year is going to be coming out this month. And here's kind of what we have. Total interactions up to June, or in June alone, this was in June, was 189,000. That was the most in a single month since 2000. And then right after that, after June, the Plank administration had already passed 1 million border apprehensions in 6 months. Yep. That number got topped in July, when July was 210,000. That brought our total to nearly 1.3 million. Now, the court right after that ruled that the Remain in Mexico policy must stand. Okay, so a lot of people thought, oh, is that going to change things? And here's what happened. In August, hardly any change. August was roughly 209,000 interactions, which brought our total to 1.5 million. That was at the end of August. Remember, we still have September that is coming out. And if he's for sure going to break the record. I'm pretty sure it's already been reported that he has, off of initial estimates, he has broke the record. We are well over double the Trump administration's numbers.
And that's not even a 12-month span.
And that's not even a 12-month span. Exactly. So here, I actually took and broke those numbers down. If we look pre-January monthly averages, we were averaging, before January, remember, this is Trump administration, we were averaging 72,678 per month. Okay? If we take and total that out in a year, we're looking at 872,000-ish, right in there. After January, remember when the Plank administration took oath and he went in, that number jumped from 72,000 to 165.5 thousand per month. Literally doubled. And if we extrapolate that over 12 months, we're looking at roughly 2 million.
So why is this a big deal? This doesn't seem like it should be a big deal. I mean, America we all came from immigrants, and you know, it just open borders allow for people in struggling to better their lives, and it's just a bunch of families coming across the border, and I mean, why is this bad? This should be great news to everybody. This is what dreams are made of.
Oh, it's just a bunch of families coming across, you say. Well, luckily for that, we have numbers as well. The DHS actually keeps numbers of families coming across, single adult encounters, unaccompanied children coming across. We actually know these numbers. So don't let the corporate media lie to you on that either. Because here's what happens. 2019 unaccompanied children encounters, 80,000. Okay? 2020, 33,000. 2021, so far, we're looking at 132,000 unaccompanied children encounters. Okay? Let's look at single adult encounters. 2019, 369,000. Okay? 2020, 335,000. 2021, 992,000 interactions. Okay. Well, what about those single family units? Where are they at? Well, 2019, we had 572 or 527,000 single family encounters. In 2020, we had 71,000. And in 2021, this year, we had 415,000 single family unit encounters.
So you're telling me we've had twice as many single adults cross the border as we've had family units. So you mean that the narrative of these are all families coming across the border, to better their life, is entirely false. It's further perpetrated or further perpetuated that, hey, they're all from South America and Mexico, and that's very far from the truth. That's not true at all. In fact, most of the people that have been crossing as of late have been Middle Eastern.
It's insulting to me to think that our corporate media can straight up lie to us, knowing that they aren't going to that we're not going to double check their numbers. And this is why we have to be calling them out and double checking. We have to be double checking everything they say, because they will go on and try to deliberately lie after lie after lie, hoping that you aren't even going to look, that you don't know how to use the internet, as, our President Plank would like to think. It's also interesting that the Plank administration decided to put his VP in charge of this. And, this just screams incompetence, which doesn't really give a whole great rap for the diversity hire situation, considering that he deliberately chose Kamala because she is black and because she is a woman. He chose those specifically instead of doing it merit-based. Then he puts her in charge of the border, and this is what happens.
Well, he was blinded by her amazing laugh.
No.
He was at a party and she started laughing. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. We need to hear that all the time, as an answer to questions." And so he put her in as the VP, who then got to be the border czar. And that's no secret to anybody what went down there. When they asked her about that, and she laughed about it. And
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today.
She's up there. She's up there for just a nonstop dumpster fire. She's a constant problem. The one thing, and we're getting a little off subject here, but one of the things about her that just in my mind, I have to pull it up in my memory bank every once in a while. She was the first person to fall out of the race. She couldn't get 1% of her party. She was the biggest failure on the Democrat side. And somehow, like you said, not being merit-based, she ends up being the vice president.
She fell out of the race before she even had a chance to get to her own state.
Yeah, she dropped out before the Iowa caucus.
Now think about that!
Because she had less than 1%. Well, less than 1%. That's and she's coming from California on top of it. That means that the fruitcakes in California couldn't even handle her. Think of how pathetic you have to be a failure Democrat in California. That is failing so beautifully.
And here's part of the problem, is you fail upwards when it comes into politics.
Please elaborate on that.
Well, she's failed at nearly everything that she's pretty much ever done. Whenever she led in the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, she made plenty of smearing allegations against him. Her start in politics started with her sleeping with someone to get into it. It's no secret.
It's amazing how candid she was about that with Willie Brown.
I know.
How candid they were. Like, he would go places and she would be with him and his wife would be with him. Like, it is such a bizarre, that whole thing, that it's so weird. And she was just open and candid about it, and they both were. It's just, yeah, that's not the way to succeed in life, folks.
Well, unless you're apparently her. She Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what we were talking about is, and we talk about the rules for me, but not for the real problem in the Democrat Party. And, this is just kind of another example. She cannot do her job deliberately and nothing is ever going to happen to her. And that's just the way it is. And I just want to touch one thing on the border. Because a lot of people seem to think that if we have an open border and if we allow people to come across our border willy-nilly, that we are somehow being compassionate. And the truth is that it isn't not compassionate at all. Because with that, you have people, if you just let people come across the border, you're inherently going to have more human trafficking to begin with. The cartel is going to start benefiting from people going across the border. They are going to be taking advantage of people who want a better life. So they're going to have to go to the cartel. You're going to have to go to their coyotes, and they're going to traffic people across the border. And then when they get here, it isn't any better for them because guess what? The labor market gets to take advantage of their illegal immigration status, and they don't get the real benefits of being a true American citizen. Furthermore, it undercuts every single taxpayer in the United States because many of them will go on to use social benefits that they aren't paying into.
To talk about the coyotes a little bit, remember when Trump brought that up? And they were saying, hey, these coyotes are taking people to the desert.
Coyotes.
And one of those ridiculous Democrats was like, well, coyotes aren't a problem. They just kind of go wherever they're going to go. They're like he was talking about the animals.
Yeah. I mean, well, they deliberately took them out of context so they didn't have to talk about the human trafficking problem that's going down there.
Oh yeah. And you talk about the cartels, and they are literally making billions of dollars during this. Not millions, billions of dollars, because they facilitate all the trafficking and all the people coming across the border. And you can think, oh well, not everybody is going to do that. They're just going to do that on their own. No, they can't, because they patrol the southern border on the Mexico side and like a gang turf. And if you come into that turf, they're gonna take you into custody, and you're gonna have to pay your way to get out of there or die. And so that idea that, well, not everybody has to go through the cartel it's just flat out not true, because they have just taken control of that area. And I mean, just in the news recently, they were shooting at Border Patrol from across the river. So there's a lot of cartel controlling all of that. There's people that are bringing massive amounts of drugs across the border because there's so much volume of people. And the cartels benefit. That is who benefits from this more than any other group of people, is that cartel makes billions and billions of dollars. One of the other things, too, that we could touch on quickly is, they talk about the United States is just a racist country, and everything here is horrible. And why is it that everybody wants to come here then? If it's that bad, why do people come here? Furthermore, why do people come here from countries like Haiti and Cuba? I mean, those are already socialist, communist countries, so that's where everything should be perfect, right? They should have everything completely, it should be as good as it can get in those countries. Why would you want to come to the racist United States?
Well, that's part of what I was talking about as well. If you really think that you are being humanitarian by letting these people coming over here, and you simultaneously think that America is a racist hellhole and that everybody would be better if they were in Canada or Scandinavia or any other country except America, then are you really being humanitarian? Add on top of that, every illegal immigrant that comes over undermines every immigrant that comes over and does it legally. So I don't see any argument in saying that it is somehow humanitarian to just allow people to violate our own laws. That's another thing. Add on top of that, we institute these laws and then we don't enforce them ourselves. What does that say about us as a country? We don't enforce our own freaking laws.
Well, I don't think we've seen the bad part yet. I think that's yet to come. I think it's going to get worse.
Worse than the Haitian debacle that's currently going down?
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse. I really do, and part of the reason why I think it's going to get worse is they're gonna fight funding for this. They're gonna fight federal funding for this. And one of the things being in Texas, and I'm only a few hours from the border, is hey, I've heard that Texas needs to do something. Well, that's it's a Texas border, but it's mainly a federal border, and that is the federal government's job. That's the funding source for that. Texas loses about $106 billion a year to the federal government. So why can't we get anything from them? Well, I think we know the answer to that is the federal government with a Democrat Plank administration is going to do everything they can to damage Texas. And this is a great way for them to do it. And that's part of the reason why I think that this is being done the way it's being done. And now that's a little bit of a conspiracy, but I believe that they want to, it's a Texas thing. They want to do that. They want to damage Texas to try and flip it blue. And, I hear from many people that, hey, Abbott should be doing something about this. And well, he is, but you have to keep in mind that this is a federal issue. And hopefully he's going to be able to overcome this. I know they're talking about redoing or picking back up the construction of the wall. They're adding more. Actually, state troops are being brought in. And recently, I heard this on the radio, you can volunteer to go and work with the Border Patrol right now. You can just go down there. Yeah. I would love to see a bunch of people do that. That would be really something. I don't know that they're paying you to do it. I didn't dig that deep into it, but I did hear it on the radio. One of the state representatives was on the radio, and he was talking about that they've opened that up to volunteers. So hopefully, Texas will be able to overcome that. If we didn't lose $106 billion a year to the federal government, we'd have plenty of money, and we'd just do it ourselves here. Because the federal government is worthless. It's absolutely worthless. They do nothing well. Not one single thing that the federal government does is done well, and this is a great example of it. We have a raging dumpster fire here. Now, this isn't the dumpster fire of the day, but it's going to continue to happen. This is going to go down and go down and go down, and I honestly think we're going to get to the point to where Texas is going to make moves to try and fix this situation. They're going to add people. They're going to do different things, and I think you're going to see. I really do believe you're going to see the federal government try to place injunctions on Texas to stop them from preventing this. I think that's the next round in this story.
Well, we'll see what happens. The Harris administration is apparently in charge of this, so we'll see. I have no idea what they're going to do yet.
Well, that's part of my great example. What's the one thing she hates most? Conservatives. That's the number one thing that she hates. So that why wouldn't she do this to flood them with all of this other stuff they have to deal with? That's exactly what.
Oh, that's part of the kind of the long-standing conspiracy is that this is all done on purpose. But maybe it is. I'm not sure. But here this brings us to our Haitian migrant debacle that's been going down. For those of you who haven't been paying attention. A whole lot. In Del Rio, Texas, there were approximately 15,000 Haitian migrants that were camping under a bridge.
Beneath this border bridge in Del Rio, Texas, a group of migrants grows by the hour. The men, women, and children, mostly from Haiti. Tonight, they number nearly 15,000, tripling in size since Wednesday. All waiting in near 100-degree heat, washing clothes in the Rio Grande and sleeping outside for a chance to claim asylum.
Which is pretty wild. We have a bunch of photos of what that encampment kind of looks like. It's a bunch of tents that's looking like we're a third world country. The Plank administration wasn't doing anything on this, so Abbott erected a wall using cop cars.
Yep, just parked them side by side
because they had to get this under control. It was wild. I heard that these Haitian migrants were coming, getting dropped off in taxis, and I guess my question, mainly the very first one off the top, is where are these guys coming from? Where are these Haitians coming from? Because they're not coming from Haiti. And, a lot of people probably look at this and think, oh, well, Haiti has been under a lot of problems. And these are probably people who, just like the Cubans, are hopping into floating cars and floating over into Mexico. Nope.
If that were the case at that volume, you would think that there would be some sort of footage from the Coast Guard intercepting these. You would think it's really weird to think that these people, because for those of you in Portland, there's a huge chunk of water between Texas and Haiti. So they got to get across that water somehow. Now, I did hear kind of a story, and I can't validate this at all, that there was a large group of Haitians that made it from Haiti to somewhere in South America. I think it may have been Colombia, and that is this group of people now. But I have no way of validating that. I mean, that almost seems like kind of a cover up, like we'll just make this story up and put this out here because it can sort of make sense. I mean, it's possible, but it's not very probable. It's weird that somehow these people are coming across this large expanse of water,
and we don't have any footage of them coming over either. So it's just kind of really head scratching. 15,000 migrants all at once, all Haitian. Where did they come from? Nobody seems to have an answer to that. Or at least any answer that I've really seen that has had good evidence substantiated behind it. I don't know where these people are coming from. Which just, man, raises questions. Because this happens to happen, right after the kind of Plank administration's debacle in Afghanistan. I don't know. Maybe it just seems kind of like a change of script. I'm not sure. But Plank admin ordered the camp to be cleared out ahead of a BLM protest that was about to happen. So, I mean, no surprise there. The FAA decided to ban drones, so nobody could kind of see what's going on. So the Texas Border Patrol decided to instead just take a helicopter. Thank you.
Yep, and that's how they got the
yeah. I mean, I saw a bunch of it where we had people going up and they're flying all around, and it is really wild to see. They set up literal encampments. People were hanging and doing their laundry in the ocean and just like hanging it up there. They had like these little shanties going on. Little Haiti down there.
Yeah, literally.
But all of this led to corporate media, the Biden administration, literal Plank himself, Kamala, and the Alejandro Mayorkas, all repeating the lie that the Haitian immigrants were being whipped by Border Patrol.
They are committed to processing migrants in a safe, orderly, and humane way. We know that video, though, says a lot, and this comes as mass deportations for migrants in South Texas are slated for this week. Many are Haitians who travel to the border, as you mentioned, after hearing rumors that they...
Which really contradicts the statement by the media personnel that recorded the event. Comes out later and says that's not at all.
They had to retract all of that.
Like, that's not what happened. Well, yeah. I just think it's crazy that the media people, from the liberal media, would actually correct that. I can't believe that they corrected that. There had to have been some pressure come in from somewhere.
Well, I mean, it was pretty obviously false that anybody with half a brain cell could see that those weren't actual whips. Those were the reins of a horse. You see, in medicine, this is why you're required to take 2 x-rays. Because one view can depict something, but if you have 2 views, you can see things a little bit better. So, yeah, those pictures that they were going off of and making these wild, just ridiculous claims would have all been solved if, you would have just looked at the video. Or, maybe take a couple pictures. Maybe not just one. Just saying,
Honestly, when that started, I really kind of thought, why... I mean, I see why people would be mad about that, but don't the Border Patrol kind of have the whole thing in their hands to decide how they want to handle it? Even let's say it was true. I mean, yeah, that's not great, but the whole situation isn't great. And don't they have the ability to decide how they're going to handle it?
Whips are one thing. How about guns?
Well, that's exactly my point. I mean, they've shot people there. They've had to defend themselves against the cartels and people coming across the border. I mean, they were just shot at here just a few days ago. So I guess my question is aren't they at liberty to use whatever force they deem necessary? I don't know what the laws are pertaining directly to border agents, but I would suspect that they kind of get a little bit of free reign.
I'm not saying that whips would be a good thing. I am saying that it is a less lethal enforcement than what we could be using. So...
Well, I can tell you this. If the Democrats get our way and we go communist, there will be a flippin' minefield across that border. And that won't be for people coming in. It'll be to stop the people from going out. And that is a Democrat dream.
Even if it was whips, it's a less lethal form. And, what would you rather have? I guess a whip or a baton? The border agents have to have things to control and to protect themselves. And, I guess I would probably take that over a gun. But, that's neither here nor there. The point is that the story was false and got repeated over and over and over again until they had to correct it. But by that time, the damage was already done. And the media do this so many times where they outright lie to you and then just hope you don't check.
I feel like this was done as a distraction.
Oh, you don't say.
Like they knew, oh, hey, we got to hurry up and point the camera over here. Like they needed a distraction, and I don't remember what was happening at the exact time. But I mean, there was that's how that all felt. It felt like just a big distraction. So what happened in the end here? I mean, what did they do? Did all of the people move out from under that bridge, or did they just stay there? Are they still there? I guess I don't know where we're sitting on that.
The encampment has been significantly decreased, if there are really any more left. So the last I knew, 10 to 12,000 of them were released into the interior, and about 3 to 5,000 of them were deported. So that's as far as I know. The last I knew, our administration didn't even have those numbers, or they wouldn't. Here's the truth. They wouldn't give those numbers.
Yeah, it's the second one. They know exactly what's going on there. Come on, it's the federal government.
They pretended that they didn't know these numbers, and they wouldn't give exactly what happened. So they only gave rough estimates. It seems that we ended up releasing most of them into the interior, and then 3 to 5,000 of them got deported, which was pretty interesting. Because this brings in, I think, we could have a discussion here about what exactly constitutes somebody fleeing a country, like true fleeing, right? And how those rules are actually implemented, because it's not like you get to flee a country and then pick whichever one that you want to go to. It's not like an a la carte.
No, actually, yeah, there's actually UN rules that apply to that situation.
Exactly.
And I forget how the rule states specifically, but it says something to the effect of, as if you're fleeing from a tyrannical government or government persecution, it is, I guess, acceptable or recommended to flee to the adjacent country unless that country is experiencing the same thing. Then you go to the next country, and then if
it's the first country you
don't just say
that is not, in the middle of a civil war,
perpetuating the persecution,
or in some type of persecution. That is exactly what it is. It's the first country you touch.
Yeah, and that's how it is in the UN. You can't just say, "All right, we're gonna flee. Where are we gonna go?"
Denmark sounds
there are specific rules.
No, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
You don't just get to choose where you get to go. It's not just an a la carte, pick whichever country you want to live in. That's not how that works.
And a lot of people, especially Americans, kind of think that, oh, well, these people are fleeing, so they have to, we'll take care of them, we'll take care of them. But remember, the United States is a racist, horrible country, so those people shouldn't come here.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's either a racist hellhole, or it's better than most countries. And the second is true.
It is better than all countries.
It's better than all countries. That's
better
the truth.
than all countries. This is the best place to live in the world. No other country is experiencing this kind of mass illegal migration. Because most countries enforce their border laws, and you can't even do that. You know what? A good example of this is people like Whoopi Goldberg and Cher and all of those fruitcake leftists that said, well, I'm going to move to Canada if Trump gets elected. Bull crap you are. They won't let you do it. That's why they didn't leave. They didn't leave because they couldn't. Now, whether they looked into it or not, the fact is Canada would have told them to get bent because you can't just move into another country. And that's the fact. That's the only country you can just walk into and live in is the United States. So to say that we're racist and we're against everything and that we don't want to help people, there is more charitable work done from the United States than the entire rest of the world combined. You can look that up if you don't believe me. That is straight up a fact.
Well, a lot of people, I can already hear the actual intelligent leftists trying to say that the United States ranks pretty low on the Freedom Index. But, it's pretty interesting that Freedom Index doesn't actually take your God-given right freedoms into account. Because we are the only country that has a First and a Second Amendment. So until all other countries get a First and a Second Amendment, I don't want to hear a single thing about their freedom because we are inherently better.
That's just because nobody's done communism right.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, did you like that meme I sent over? The socialist sitting in paradise? Oh, this is unbearable. This isn't real socialism. We gotta
I'll see if I can put that on here. Yeah. I just, that just to touch on that for a second, I really love these crazy socialist kind of pseudo-commie leftists that are typically pretty young people, and they love to talk about how, socialism is the way, and they like to use these examples. Well, what they really... There's tons of contradictions in what they say, but you absolutely cannot just migrate or decide to move to a communist country. They will straight up kill you. You don't believe me? Go to North Korea. Get on a plane, fly to South Korea, and just sneak across the border into North Korea. Try it. You know what? How about this? One of you crazy commie YouTubers out there, do it and make a video on it. You want to prove your point of how great it is? Do it. Put your money where your mouth is and sneak in to North Korea and show everybody how easy it was and how accepting they are of your beliefs and how great it is for everybody.
There's a reason why the Soviet Union had a wall.
And lots of landmines. Oh, the same thing they do in North Korea. I get really sick of hearing this from these people who have accomplished nothing in their life. They get a degree in gender studies and medieval German pottery, and then they say that, it's because of capitalism why I can't make $200,000 a year with a gender studies degree. And then they slowly become a socialist and then a communist. And they've accomplished nothing. They are one of the largest groups of completely unsuccessful people in the United States. And you know what? If you think it's that bad, then make a video of it. You know what? Somebody please make a video on sneaking into a communist or socialist country. Please do it. Prove everybody how right you are. And you know what? Put a link in the comments because I will distribute that to every person I can. Say, look, it actually is great in communist countries. Prove it, people. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. And you know, it doesn't even have to be a communist country. Sneak across the border into any other country. You know what? Sneak across the border into Canada. Remember, the Canadians, they're the great... I'll tell you what, you can go to Canada and you can cut somebody off or when you're driving, sneak in and take their parking spot from them, and they will apologize to you. That's how apologetic and conforming they are. But try and sneak across their border. Guess what will happen? They are not going to be happy that you did that at all. They are not going to be like, oh yeah, you're escaping the tyrannical United States? Yeah, everybody knows how bad they are. Here you go. Here's a bunch of money and some benefits and a house and a bunch of beer and just hang out. Just party. You know what? Pot's legal here. Just have at it. That isn't how that will go down. You will be in prison. That day. You don't believe me? Make a video on it. Show me how wrong I am.
Let's move on here. We got to talk about Frances Haugen and the Facebook debacle, because that pretty much encapsulated this week with the news. So this last week there was a former Facebook employee. Her name is Frances Haugen, who courageously came out.
Courageously. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off there, but I have some strong feelings about what's going on here.
Yeah, so do I. Who courageously came out on 60 Minutes and told us something about the inner workings of Facebook and Instagram. Turns out that Facebook and Instagram is bad for you. Here that is. So,
not physically bad for you, but mentally bad for you is where she was going.
Oh yeah.
They don't like reach out of the screen and like strangle you or something like that.
Yeah, well, then she goes on to say that Facebook cares more about profit than they do about their customers. Oh, you don't say. Besides, they because they don't attack disinformation hard enough. And we know by disinformation, she means conservative content. That's what that is.
Hold on, I need to backpedal there just for a second. So she is saying that the CEO of Facebook, Mark Data Zuckerberg. You know where I was going with that, right? You know how he looks just like Data from Star Wars or Star Trek? They're saying that he doesn't have human compassion. He's literally a cyborg. I mean, that's the premise of the show. I mean,
you know how he got the start of Facebook. You're telling me Mark Zuckerberg ain't the greatest guy? Oh, you don't say.
You know what? I don't know that people know. I don't know. I think that has been kind of lost. That has been lost kind of in translation.
What, that he completely stole Facebook?
How Facebook came to be. He straight up stole Facebook.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he did build a large majority of the original the original software, and he did this with a group of people, and then he was kind of like, you know what? I'd rather have this be all mine.
Yeah.
That's why they sued him over it.
And lost a lot of money. Yeah. So you're telling me he ain't a good guy? He cares more about money than, being ethical? Oh, I'm shocked.
I have a story for you people. Facebook does not exist to not make money. It was literally done to make money. Absolutely, literally done to make money. So this shouldn't shock anybody, which is part of the reason why I think that this lady's a bit of a front, because that's not news.
Before we get to that, let's talk a little bit more, because this led to her getting to testify in front of Congress. So let's hold on. While this information, this revelation, this whistleblower was coming out, Facebook had gone, this was when Facebook went dark for that 6 hours, and the people who are addicted to it absolutely lost their minds. So Facebook, Instagram went dark for 6 hours, all of this came out, and then this led to Haugen testifying the same thing in front of Congress, and she went on to recommend that she should be the head of a new federal agency that regulates social media.
That's a hell of a suggestion. I mean, you're definitely the person that we want to have be in charge of that.
I think that I should be in charge of everything Mark Zuckerberg has to say.
Doesn't and right there you've just perpetuated the idea of I don't know how real this is.
Well,
I mean, because think about it from a corporate insider idea. You could literally have Mark Zuckerberg say, "All right, the government's going to come down on us for this. I need you to go and be a whistleblower and say this and become the head of this organization." So then it doesn't really affect us.
Well, I mean, I'm going to get into that in a second, but that is where you first saw that this might be a little bit shady. For me, it was the came out on 60 Minutes part. That was when I immediately said, oh. Remember that hit piece that they ran on DeSantis that was completely false? They are not above just straight up lying.
No, they are absolutely not above straight up lying. Is she still employed at Facebook?
No, I don't believe she is. As far as I know, she isn't.
Not on paper. Did she retain her options?
You know, who knows? It sounds like she might have a new gig running a new federal agency, so she gets to be Mark Zuckerberg's boss. Before we get into that, I think we need to talk about Haugen herself. Because who is she? And what were, a lot of people might initially look at this and say, oh, Facebook whistleblower, finally, we're talking about how they're completely locking down on conservatives, violating their own rules, and we're going to finally get some anti-censorships coming here. No, the exact opposite is happening right now. She wants more censorship. She wants Facebook to target disinformation, meaning anything that conservatives say, or anything she doesn't like, or anything that contradicts the corporate media narrative. She wants that taken out. Even harder than it is now. That's what she's asking for. So do not believe it. This is a Trojan horse. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
That is what is happening right now. Okay? Especially when we look at who Frances Haugen is. And so let's dig into her, dig in a little bit more about her. If we do any type of searching, we quickly find that she is a far left activist who's been in social media for over 10 years. She's worked for Facebook, for Google, for Pinterest. And here are some of the things we find. At Pinterest, she was driving for a recent change to give users the options to filter searches by specific skin tones.
That seems right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It seems like, right, with CRT and the whole thing. I mean, that's what people want.
Yeah, well, I mean, the CRT in and of itself is racist, and if you buy into that, well, I'm sorry, you've been duped.
She's not racist. She's just like her, Margaret Sanger. She's just doing this for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah. Well, the betterment of everybody. Yeah, sure. In 2015, she complained that Google wasn't inclusive enough to women, saying that, I didn't realize the way I had been a woman, worn down for being a woman in tech. And the last team I was on at Google, I had a transsexual engineering director, and as a result, we had more transsexual women than cis women on our team, which also says something about the number of women in tech.
They were all weightlifters.
I mean, none of that really has any correlation to something in reality, which most words do. But
I'm sorry.
CrossFitters.
I'm sorry. They're all Olympic weightlifters. I couldn't. I wasn't gonna, and then I did. Yeah, oh man.
She went on to join Facebook in 2019 on the condition that she would be tasked with censoring misinformation and was assigned to a 200-person civic integrity team.
Wait. 2019, she joined Facebook in 2019 on the condition she would be censoring. So I got a question then. So she's saying that Facebook hasn't done a good enough job censoring stuff. Right? Isn't that the basis of her whistleblowing? Isn't she the person that's the head of the 200-person team to be censoring?
I don't know if she's the head, but she's certainly on the team, that's for sure.
Well, it says she joined Facebook in 2019 on the condition she would be tasked with censoring misinformation and was assigned to their 200-person civic integrity team. So she is the person in charge of the team that censors misinformation, right? And then says that Facebook isn't censoring misinformation?
Not hard enough.
Was she going to get fired and this was the way that she was going to get out of it? I think she was going to get fired, and she said, oh, I better do something here. I'm going to lose my job. And then was like, I know, I'll be a whistleblower. So then she asked Mark Zuckerberg if she could be a whistleblower. He said, all right, but only if you can become the head of this government regulation board. And they're like, oh, it's a deal. Oh, here's a bunch of stock. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too deep into the conspiracy, but that's what I think happened.
Well, I mean, listen, firstly, I think we're being a little too liberal with the term whistleblower. Because whistleblower generally means that you are fleeing from a company, you are releasing new information that we didn't know, and the information is often illegal. She came out and told us that Instagram is bad for teenage women's health. Mental health.
Really?
You don't say!
She dropped a bomb.
Oh, boom! Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm about to be a whistleblower. Are you ready? Smoking cigarettes is bad for you. No! Do I get to testify in Congress? Do I now get to be the head of the AFT?
How about beer companies don't care about people who get drunk?
You don't say! Oh my gosh!
What? Yeah, this. Yeah. Anyway, when you said that she was, or I guess the information we have alludes to she was the head of this team, and she's complaining literally about what the team was doing, so she kind of points as herself as being a failure.
Well, no. She's not a failure. She just needs more power.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
Okay.
She was constrained by Facebook. We need to make a new federal agency that she can be the head of so she can really do her job.
Then maybe, so then that goes back to the whole conspiracy idea of this being in cahoots with Facebook.
I want to talk about that in a second here. Let's finish talking about Haugen, because she decided that she was going to donate to Democrats 36 times since 2016. She donated to AOC's campaign. Oh, I'm sorry. The very esteemed, so fresh, so face,
Venerable
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Here's a picture.
Bartender.
She's one of my favorite people. I think everybody who watches the show knows that she's one of my favorite people.
Yeah. Well, her lawyers are also John Tai and Mark Zaid. And you might have remembered Zaid because he was a part of Andrew Bakar's, his legal team. And if you remember, he was the whistleblower of Trump's Ukraine phone call. Okay. Well, she's also being advised by former Obama administration deputy press secretary and his consulting firm. So this woman has deep ties into the Democratic Party.
It sounds like she's doing this to make a bid for office. That really is what this looks like. Because why would you have a Obama administration press secretary be involved in this thing unless you're going to make a bid for office? That's where she will end up ultimately. You heard it here first, people. She is going to run for office. At some point, you are going to see her run for office. No, she might be appointed. I mean, what's better than running for office? The only thing better than running for office is being appointed to be a bureaucrat.
That's exactly what she would rather.
They're robots, Morty. I don't respect them.
They're bureaucrats. No, it's obvious. Look at here. She is being coached by the Democrats. She donates to Democrats. She's being coached to Democrats by Democrats. She is advocating for censorship of misinformation. She has, in all of her other companies, she's sitting there doing far left activism things. This is completely a far left activist thing. This is the Democrats' hard push to nearly take over Facebook. They want to run Facebook. They want to run Instagram. They want to run, honestly, YouTube. They want to run all social media companies. And what this would effectively do is reinstate the media monopoly that they had before these companies were put in. Democrats and Republicans are not on the same page when it comes to this. Do not let them trick you and say that Democrats and Republicans want to regulate Facebook, because that is not true. We do not want to regulate Facebook. We want Facebook to just follow their own rules. In fact, if we could look at their Section 230 guidelines, what we would really want is the in good faith, the catch-all clause at the end of that to be removed. That's what we want. We want less regulation when it comes to it, because we don't want censoring. You remember when Facebook came out and said that they were just a platform for free speech? Yeah, no. And this is what happens when you start placating to the hard left. You remember before 2016, Facebook was not placating to the hard left. They would say that they wanted right-wing sources taken out, discredited, and downgraded in their content. And Mark said, no, we're not going to do that. We are an open platform for free speech. And then slowly things started to change. They, the left said that if you don't do this, we're going to start regulating you harder. And so he decided to outsource their content or their moderation to fact checking. This is where the whole fact checking industry began. It began by them saying that we're not going to do it because we want to still appear as if we're a neutral source or a place for free speech. And instead, they just outsourced their fact-checking to largely hard left organizations that now just go in and do their bidding for them. And now the left, once you give them an inch, they take a mile. And here is exactly what happens. Facebook cannot have their cake and eat it too. They should have, this is why you don't apologize. This is why you don't concede. This is why you don't give that inch. Because this is what happens. Mark is now going to probably be regulated by a federal agency, which would be quite potentially the dumbest thing that we could possibly do.
So you're saying that they want to use this as leverage to take a playbook right out of China.
That's exactly what they want to do. Yeah, it's not even a question.
For a lot of people, so people don't really, I mean, they're the people who are older than myself know this, but a lot of younger people don't realize that before there was internet and social media, you got your news, you got all your information from usually the nightly news and newspapers. What a lot of people didn't know at the time was how deeply regulated and tied into the government those news sources were. So, we're supposed to have a free and unregulated press, and there's people who actually do that. There's news organizations, there's individuals who publish news that's actual real news on unbiased news. But a lot of people don't know that if you go back historically, that news was biased. There was limited news sources, so it was harder to question. And you just took whatever the news channel, the nightly news, the 6 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news that was on it every day, whatever those anchors, whatever was broadcast by those people was taken as the news. And that a lot of times that was manipulated. It just that back in the 50s and 60s, people didn't realize that it was really being manipulated. But once the internet showed up, and now you had people like us. You had people like us. Drudge was doing that in his living room. They were just, hey, I'm going to dig up, I'm going to talk about what's going on, and sometimes it blew up. And before that, you had some cable access stuff that was very, very local. But until the internet came along, the voice of the common man was decided on by these companies. And they got to make the decision on who got to say what and how it was represented. So now the government has lost some of that, and this is a bid to try and get it back. So we're supposed to have free speech, we're supposed to have unregulated press, but what they want to do is they want to just control it enough so the voices that they don't want to be heard cannot get heard.
They are trying to reassert the monopoly that they had. This is what that is. It was a media monopoly that they had back then, and they're trying to reassert.
All right, we have a winner for the Daily Dumpster Fire. It was really close. It was very, very close. Francis Haugen, you almost won it. You were right neck and neck, but when it came down to the wire, you didn't win it because you didn't commit treason like Mark Milley. General Mark Milley, you have won the daily dumpster fire. How? By being yourself. So what did Mark Milley do?
Turns out General Mark Milley, remember he is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he committed literal treason while under the Trump administration.
And admits it.
Yeah.
You can't forget that part. And openly admits that he did it.
Well, he tries to cover it up and he tries to mince his words, but it's not good enough. So this came from Bob Woodward's book that kind of enlightened us on this and has led to some serious questions. And so here's kind of what happened. Twice in the final months of the Trump administration, the country's top military officer, Milley, was so fearful that President Trump's actions might spark a war with China that he moved urgently to avert armed conflict. In a pair of secret phone calls, Mark Milley, the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, assured his Chinese counterpart, who is a general in the Chinese military, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, I'm just going to butcher it, so of the People's Liberation Army, that the United States would not strike according to the new book. So, that's what happened. He called up the Chinese general and said, hey, don't worry, we are not going to attack you. Because apparently, China was concerned that Trump was going to attack. And, you can see Milley and Pelosi both talking about this over the phone, saying that they both felt that he was, the president was mentally unstable. And then, even though according to his testimony in front of Congress, he apparently knew that the president wasn't going to attack China. He literally said it under oath. He knew that he wasn't going to attack China. Then add on top of that, when testifying about Afghanistan, Milley goes on to say the president doesn't have to agree with advice just because we're generals. This country doesn't want generals to figure out, which orders they're going to follow and what ones they're not.
Now, he was saying that in reference to, there were some questions brought up about President Plank pulling, out the military in the Afghanistan deal. So after he went and said that, hey, I contacted China because I was concerned because China was concerned that Trump was going to attack them, which he did on his own. He contacted them without Trump's knowledge, who was president. Then they asked this same guy after President Plank pulled out of Afghanistan, what were the suggestions, who advised Biden, and he said, and that's where he said that, when he said that the president doesn't have to agree with his generals, and it's not the generals' jobs to actually call the shots in the end, is what he summed it up as. So that's the reference there. That's how those two things tie together.
Well, yeah, and he was talking because remember President Plank said that the military advisors were all in agreement with his handling of Afghanistan, and then both the CENTCOM commander McKenzie and Joint Chiefs of Staff Milley both testified under oath that Biden was advised to leave a troop presence of roughly 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. So, which either way, it wasn't going to be good for him because on the one hand, either he wasn't getting any counter information and you had just a big old Democrat groupthink going on that the president was listening to, or he was being given information and he just wasn't listening to it and then he was lying to you, which the second is what actually happened.
So how did he commit treason?
Oh, well, as we know, treason is when you assist an enemy at your own country's expense.
So treason, for those of you in Portland, is insider trading, but with government facts.
He thought the president was mentally unstable and decided to call up the general of China and reassure them and tip our hand. Tip our hand that we weren't going to attack them. Let me tell you, there are multiple things that are wrong here. Because firstly, he knew that the president wasn't going to do it. So immediately he tipped our hand. A lot of people say that they didn't like the President Trump because he was too unpredictable. His unpredictability is what made him a good negotiator and is what kept countries like China, North Korea, kept them all in check because they didn't know what he was going to do. The element of surprise, while important in military, is also important in negotiation and not tipping your hand or telling your opponent what you're going to do. So the fact that China thought that Trump might attack them, immediately means that Trump had them where he wanted them. And Milley decided, oh, you know what? We're not going to do it. We're going to tip our hand. And then let's add on top of that. The next thing he says is he felt that the president was mentally unstable. Who is he to say that what mental stability is and is not? Who gave him the authority to choose if someone is mentally stable or not? We have things that you can do if you think that he is incompetent, mainly the 25th Amendment. But he is not the person to say what is and is not as it comes to mental stability.
Because the fact of the matter is that the president was in office. That's still his position. If we're going to talk about mental stability of a president, we could get into a discussion right now. We could really have a good discussion about mental stability. President Plank doesn't even know where he is.
They're just bringing him out. It's Plank.
If you want to talk about that. Yeah, exactly. So, either way, that wasn't his decision to make, and what he did was then he committed treason. I don't want to cause a conspiracy here, but I wonder if he was paid. I wonder if they paid him. I wonder if he was a paid informant. In one way or another, I would guess that that's the case. Now, no one will ever know the answer to that, and that's just a theory, because it just seems really odd. Like, why would you do that? Why, as a sitting general, why would you contact China and be like, you know what, everybody, we're good. We ain't actually gonna do nothing here. So you can continue doing all of your communist stuff there, and no one's going to say anything. It's all a lie. It's just a front. We don't want to keep you guessing, so don't worry about it. Why would you ever do that? That abandons any sort of logic. It abandons any sort of justification that somebody might give for it, too. Saying that, Trump was unstable, so I had to take matters into my own hands. The matter that should be taken into somebody's hands is he should be treated like the Rosenbergs. For those of you in Portland, the Rosenbergs are the last people to be ever tried for treason. It was a husband and wife team of spies that were working for Russia. And do you know what happened to the Rosenbergs?
I don't. Could you tell me?
What is the punishment for treason? The punishment for treason is execution. That is what happened to the Rosenbergs. Now, what do we think will happen to General Mark Milley? Nothing. Literally nothing will happen to him. He committed treason. He's guilty of treason, and nothing will happen to him.
Well, it's already obvious that he's a Democrat activist. He's a far-left activist that is in a general's position. I mean, you can tell this. You can tell it by the way he advertises that he wants to be teaching CRT to our military. He already said that. He's advertising that, that he wasn't a fan of Trump and he didn't like him. And he was talking with Pelosi about he's unstable. He's obviously compromised, to the far left. So yeah, rules for thee, but not for thee. Or rules for me, but not for thee. If I commit treason, I'm dead. General Milley here commits treason. He's going to be just fine. The Plank administration even goes on to say that they have the utmost confidence in him.
Of course they do, because he's going to push a leftist agenda. He's gonna buy into the woke military. He's gonna buy into all of the leftist ideals, and he's gonna use his title as a general to validate it. So of course they want somebody like that.
Good job, Milley. You are the dumpster fire of the week, and you need to be tried for treason. That's the truth. Can he be court-martialed?
Well, I'm sure he could be, but he won't. Come on, they won't do that to him. They're gonna give him another star, is what they're gonna do. He'll get another star. They'll give him some sort of promotion to show, hey, you know what? You did such a good job just being a leftist hack that here you go. Here you go. Here's some sort of award or what. However they're going to do that, that's what will happen with him. Where, in fact, he should be arrested and tried for treason. And there really isn't even a trial because he admitted it what he did. I'm sorry, but admission of treason does not just get you out of it.
Well, I mean, he tried to mince his words and say, oh, well, I was just trying to give them a heads up. I thought he was unstable, but then he wasn't unstable. So he admitted it. It was treason. It is treason. And Biden's Build Back Better agenda is going really well. He really has built the Taliban and China back better. They are better off since he's been in there.
Bang up job, President Plank.
Good job, Plank.
All right. So, General Milley, you are the dumpster fire of the day. Good job. You knocked it out of the park. Actually did something just illegal and very, very much against your country and the general stability of the trust of the people trusting the government and military. You did a bang up job. You win the award. I couldn't be happier. Couldn't have went to a better person. Great job, Mark Milley, dumpster fire winner. And that concludes an episode of Just Two Brothers. We've came to the end of episode 4. If you got any ideas for any shows, put them in the comments. If you got anything to say at all, put it in the comments. Just keep in mind, if you're going to say something negative, I don't care about your feelings, and I don't care what you say.
If you have any ideas for Dumpster Fire of the Week, you want to send us anything, please put it in the comment section below. We will actually read them and check them out. So, please.
It's Just Two Brothers.